Thank you, Alice. Okay, we will now call on the mayoral candidates to come before you. And I will start with my immediate left and call for you, Sylvester Sly James. Thank you.
Well, thank you all for being here. Mike Burke and I have spent so much time with each other that I don't know who started this cold, but we both seem to have had one in alternating fashion for the last week. Literally, we saw each other, I think, 4 times 2 days ago. We ended last evening with a forum out south that ended at about 10 o'clock, and we continue to do that. We are trying very hard to get to as many different places as we're invited to answer questions and respond to questions so that the people in the city will have an opportunity to make their own decision as to how they want to vote on March 22. We certainly want to encourage you not only to vote on March 22, but also on April 5 for the earnings tax. Now, about 2.5 years ago, we started this campaign, literally 2.5 years ago, and it culminated in the primary election 2 weeks ago that seems like 2.5 years ago, based on the way that we've been moving lately. In that 2.5 years, one of the things that we did was we talked to as many people as possible to determine what were those issues that people were most generally concerned about. And we found out they're concerned about 4 things, at least from our perspective, 4 separate but interrelated things: efficiency in government, education, enforcement of the laws and safety, and employment. And depending on who you talk to, those 4 E's will shift in terms of importance. But in terms of efficiency in government, we have to use the money that we collect from taxes to work in the most efficient way. That is especially true now that the economy is down, very true now that we're facing a vote on the earnings tax here on April 5. We must find ways to do that. And once you vote in a tax at our request for a specific purpose, it's our obligation as a city to use that tax only for that purpose, not to take part of the transportation tax and use it for overhead. If you want a transportation tax, that's what it has to be used for. Education, we talk about education in this community a lot. Finally, in the last year or so, I think we may be on the verge of maybe slowly turning that corner and starting on the right path to address our educational needs. By doing that, we will help keep kids out of prison and give them brighter futures for what they need in the future. The last thing that I'll talk about before we get into answering questions and Mike has his chance to talk to you about his opening is, I've been a resident of this community since I was 8 years old and moved from Wyandotte County. Went to school here, lived on 44th and Montclair. Over the period of time that I've been in this community, progress has been slow on a number of issues. And one of the things that I think that will help make it faster is when we start learning to work together. And that's what I'll be trying to do as your mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Mike Burke. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. It's also a pleasure, I must say, to campaign with Sly James. We respect each other. We're friends. We're not going negative on each other. We're talking issues. And I think there are a lot of things that we agree on. We agree that this may be the most important election for mayor in our lifetime. Because as I described it, mayors come out of the litter. We've had the worst 4 years for our neighborhoods in recent memory. We've had some of the worst 4 years for jobs, for economic development, and for coordinated, collaborative leadership in City Hall. I think we're both very committed to change that. I'm a lifetime Kansas City, and I've served my city and our city in many different capacities, both as a city councilman, as chair of the Public Improvement Advisory Committee, going around to all the various neighborhoods in Kansas City, as somebody who wrote our current zoning ordinance, somebody who did something fun, like founded our 4th of July celebration at Riverfest. So I've been around in Kansas City.
Okay, we again would remind the candidates that we have a timekeeper, and she will flash before you when you're down to 30 seconds, and at that point, then you should begin to wrap up. Okay, we do have a question that's been posed by one of the citizens in the auditorium right now. Her question is: previous mayors have complained or helped surrounding communities attract businesses and living wage job development away from Kansas City, Missouri. What will you do to stop Kansas City, Missouri from becoming a donut hole of low business development and low living wage job development? This is a question that will require a response from both candidates. Well, you've got the mic.
A number of questions there. First has to do with prevailing wage, I heard that mentioned, prevailing wage and quality jobs in Kansas City. And I'm committed as mayor to enforcing prevailing wage, not just on city projects, but on projects that the city helps to fund. I'm also committed on making sure that as we embark on the largest public works program in city history, that we make those jobs local. We make contractors to the extent allowed by law in the bidding process, make sure we segment those bid contracts so that small contractors, especially minority and women contractors, can get some of those projects, and that we enforce our workforce ordinance so that the jobs go to local people. Now, as far as the competition we're facing from Kansas, we are, as I phrased the Indiana Jones movie where Indiana shows up and says, never bring a knife to a gunfight. Well, unfortunately, that's where Kansas City is with Kansas. We're the guys with the knife, not the gun. They are picking off our businesses one by one because they have a tool that enables them to write a check to a corporation and move them to Kansas. We don't have a comparable tool in Missouri. As mayor, I'm going to go down to Jefferson City and make sure that we get the tools to compete with Kansas. Eventually, we need a truce and no poaching compact because it makes no sense to just be moving jobs across the state line. It adds not a job to the region, it doesn't add tax base to the region. Matter of fact, it takes away the tax base because you're taking your tax money from Kansas and handing it to that corporation. So we need tools. We need a mayor who will work hard to get jobs in Kansas City and a mayor who's experienced in bringing jobs to Kansas City.
We already had a no poaching handshake agreement. It didn't work. They broke it. That's why we're in the situation that we're in now. We've already used incentive tools to create jobs, and the 3rd district and the 5th district had the highest unemployment rates in the city. It ain't worked. So all of the things that were done in the past by the previous mayors, using all the experience and everything else, hasn't really helped a whole lot in the 3rd district or the 5th district and parts of the 6th. The fact of the matter is that if we want things to change, then you need to change the way that we're doing things. The definition of insanity is to do the same things over and over and somehow expect a different result. It is time for us to start thinking about different ways to approach these problems and ways that it's actually going to have an impact on the districts that have not been impacted in the past. The development that has gone on downtown has in fact created jobs, but they have not stimulated the economies in the 3rd district or the 5th district. What we need are tools that will help stimulate jobs and raise businesses, start-up businesses on Troost Avenue, on 12th Street, on Prospect, so that we can start having an impact on those areas. Where's the grocery store? How about using a tax increment financing plan or tax abatement or some other incentive for a grocery store? That seems to be something that everybody talks about. But here's the real problem. This is another thing that we both agree with. These problems are complex. We cannot shoot a bullet, fire a rocket, and solve all of these problems at one time. It takes a frontal assault on things like education, efficiency in government, housing, employment, and other things to attack this problem and make it better. And we have to learn to work together to implement a common plan, or we're just going to continue to run in circles and get nowhere.
thank you. Another question that has been submitted by an audience member is, how does the city plan to pay for the legacy issues that will be the city's responsibility at the new Honeywell bomb plant? How does the city plan to pay for the legacy issues that will be the city's responsibility at the new Honeywell bomb plant?
They won't be the city's responsibility. The old bomb plant is federal. Those problems are federal, and the federal government has the responsibility for remediating that land. The federal government has the responsibility for taking care of those people who believe and can claim and can provide them with whatever proof is necessary that they were injured as a result. That falls under the Federal Tort Claims Act or the Federal Workers' Compensation Act, and that's the federal government's responsibility. The city's responsibility is to hold the federal government's feet to the fire if they fail to take that responsibility. With regards to a new bomb plant, at least from what I know, and there's a couple of council people out here who are much more involved in it than I am, at least from what I know, no nuclear materials are going to be at that plant. Parts are going to be manufactured, not nuclear materials. Therefore, there should be no legacy issues. If there are legacy issues, then again, the federal government will have the primary responsibility to take care of those because they are the ones who are controlling the manufacturing process.
Thank you. Sly gave the right answer in this. The new facility, the new Honeywell facility, probably they have a technical ownership. The responsibility is the federal government and Honeywell. The old federal complex at Bannister is exclusively a federal cleanup program. The legacy issues, both with regard to cleanup and health issues, are federal responsibilities. Now, if I'm mayor, we need to push the federal government. I'm going to hire Sly Jennings to sue the federal government to make sure that happens.
Okay, another question. What are you going to do with the low morale of city employees? Everything is going up in price, and the city employees have not gotten a raise in the last 3 years. They are working at least 5 to 10 people's job because in the last 2 years, about 300 people have been let go. What are your plans to raise the morale of city employees?
These have been very difficult times for the city. They've been very difficult times for private business. I have a great deal of respect and sympathy for what city employees are going through. I think the current council made the decision, instead of laying off more people and giving raises, to try and keep the talent that we have. I think that was a wise decision. I think we're all committed, I certainly am, to catching up and restoring the raises that were due just as soon as we can find room in the budget with a recovery of city revenues. City revenues are off. That's the plain hard fact, and we all suffer. But I think my commitment to city employees is as soon as we can find the money in our budget to meet that obligation, I'm committed to.
Okay. Would you support?
You know, there are some things that you can do as an employer to keep your employees happy, even when you don't have money. I have a legal assistant that's worked for me for 13 years. She hasn't always been able to get a raise because the revenue hasn't always been there. But I'll tell you one thing that she does appreciate. When she walks into my office and tells me that she has an idea about how we can be more efficient or that we ought to go to a different company in order to save money on a copier, I listen to her. That doesn't cost a dime. She appreciates being listened to because then she knows that somebody does care enough to at least listen. The other thing about it, too, that I've learned from working with the people in my small firm is that sometimes the people that you ask to actually do the job day in and day out have better ideas about how to make that job more efficient or to save you money than you do because you're not doing know, it is always an eye-opening experience to walk in somebody else's shoes and learn what their life is like, and then start making decisions that affect their life. Maybe we ought to go spend some time hauling some trash, filling some potholes, picking up dead animals on the road. It might have an impact on how we feel about those people who do that every day, and by doing that, we would learn a lot about them. They would learn a lot about us. But the one thing that we can do to increase morale, or esprit de corps as we used to call it in the Marine Corps, is to listen to our people, do the best that we can to help them in non-monetary ways, listen to their ideas, and if they have an idea that saves us money, what's wrong with rewarding them? What's wrong with having a little bit of a reward system on some things? But we have to at least listen to them in order to show them that we respect them.
Okay, Mike Burke has indicated that he has to leave at 6:30, so we want to proceed on. Here's a question for both. Would you support local control of the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department? Why or why not?
I think this is something Sly and I both agree on, is that if we thought that the problem with crime in Kansas City was directly related to the governments, I think we would be down in Kansas City asking for that change. I don't think that's the case. I think we have good local people that are appointed by the governor. As mayor, one of the things I will have an opportunity to do will be to hire a new police chief. Our current chief is slated for retirement. I plan to be an active member of the police board. I plan to be very active in the hiring of a new police chief, because I think we need an understanding at the outset of what I expect of that police chief, what I expect of the police department. The police department, I know, works hard in this community. Can they do better? Darn straight. I have proposals for more community policing, more involvement of the police department in schools, in teaching kids. I think we need a police department that looks more like the constituencies that they serve. We need to step up the recruiting of African American and Hispanic American police officers. That's the key to community policing. And I do apologize for having to leave. There are two other forums that I'm going to do, and a slide to go. Thank you very much, Fire.
We've been sanitizing our hands back and forth. We do agree on that basic point. There's a couple of parts to it that I do think need to be addressed. And I see Ed Ford, and I know Ed disagrees with us on the local control issue. Local control also has some serious budgetary implications. One of the main issues with local control is who gets to control the budget that the police department actually gets. And the budget, I think, for last year was $198 million. That's money that, under local control, the city would control. But here's my thing about local control. First, I'm a fact-based problem solver, so if there's a list of facts or data out there that says by achieving local control, we can cut 106 murders into 53, then I'll be banging on the door for local control. I have not seen those facts. Second, with the current condition of our city government, particularly the executive branch in the form of the mayor and how that's been functioning and some of the issues that that's caused, I don't think we're ready for local control. I don't think that's something that we need to take on first. We have enough problems to resolve without taking on one of the biggest issues. The other thing that strikes me as a little weird is that when the citizen surveys and satisfaction surveys are done in the city, one of the departments that gets the highest ratings is the police department. The citizen satisfaction survey department that gets the absolute low rating are elected officials, the council and the mayor. So are we suggesting then that the lowest rated people take over the highest rated people, and somehow that's going to equal a good result? That doesn't make much sense to me. Now, with regards to diversity, Mike talks about experience. I have experience with diversity. As the president of the Bar Association in 2003, the 5-year diversity program that I put in place resulted in 100% more hires of African Americans and Latino lawyers at the law firms in this city. That's the experience that brings results that actually mean things to real people.
Moving on, the next question. Do either of you know why the billionaire from St. Louis is involved in elimination?
No, I don't.
Do you know what his motive, ulterior motive is? And second, as the second point, then go on to indicate how you feel about union workers and unions.
Okay, so the first part has to do with Rick Singfeld from St. Louis. And the second part is how do we feel about union workers? I'm not going to answer for Mike. I think that when Mike and I talk, we both kind of say there has to be a reason why a multi-million billionaire with a house big enough to have his own 18-hole golf course, that from what I'm told, from the time that you leave the street at his gate and get to the front door, you can stop at least one McDonald's, fill up your car with gas, and watch a movie. Okay? He lives in a big place on a lot of land, and he wants to spend $12 million of his own money in the Proposition A to overturn a tax he doesn't even pay. That would make me a little suspicious. But maybe it's just me. I don't have any idea why he would do that, but here's the bottom line on that. It doesn't matter why he would do it. The question I've got for the people of Kansas City is, why would we let him? There is nothing that he is doing that can hurt us unless we let him. The bottom line is that we need that tax in this city to continue to deliver the services, even at the levels that you find somewhat unacceptable now. Because if you find them unacceptable when we got the full 500,000, just imagine how unacceptable they'll be when we're down to 300,000. We have to do better with what we've got, but we first have to maintain what we've got. Secondly, I love unions, okay? And hopefully they love me. But I like the idea of people being able to organize and bargain for the things that they find important in their workplace and work life. I see nothing wrong with that. I think that it's like anything else. If you allow anybody or any group to go too far, it can be harmful. But beyond that, I think that having bargaining power is one of the best things that's ever helped people in the working class to achieve what they need to achieve.
Okay. Moving on, the next question. Why should we keep the earnings tax?
Why should we keep the earnings tax? Because the earnings tax is 50% paid by people who don't live here, and we get the benefit of that money. But those 50% of the people who don't live here and pay it are using our roads, flushing the toilet, creating trash, calling for fire, using ambulances, going to the hospital when necessary. If they don't have insurance, they use Truman, then we provide the insurance care. It is a fair tax to be employed. I believe it is the fairest tax to be employed. It is 40% of our expendable budget. By that I mean it is 40% of the general fund. General fund is $500 billion. The earnings tax generates approximately $2, and the people of Kansas City only pay about $100 million of that $200 million. If that tax goes away, there is no conceivable way that the people of Kansas City, Missouri only can pay not just their own $100 million that they were paying, but pick up the other $100 million that the folks in Johnson County, the folks in Blue Springs and Lee Summit were helping us to pay. But you know what? They still get to come and drive on the roads, flush the toilet, generate trash, call the police, go to the hospital, and use all the services that we have, and now they get to do it for free. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're mean or bad or anything else. I'm just saying that they are willing at this point, for the most part, to help us do that. That's why I'm happy that we have people who own small businesses like Donald Hall, who lives in Kansas. He's got a little company. They pay a few bucks in earnings tax. He's a co-chair trying to make sure we keep this tax. And he, if anybody, can be one of those people you would expect to want to give
part, it is the perception that hope in our city has been restored. How do you plan to restore it?
Clearly that's not true, or there wouldn't be anybody sitting here. I mean, seriously, hope in the city hasn't been destroyed. As a matter of fact, since the primary, I'd say the hope in the city has risen. A new day is coming. We all know it. The cloud has passed. Okay? We all have hope. But it's not enough to have hope. Hope is what you kind of, it's a passive thing. That you're sitting there and you hope something happens. We got to stop hoping for the best and make the best happen. You know, we don't need to wait for the streetcar to come and pick us up. Why don't we go down and walk to where we want to go? We'll get there, but at least we're in control. This is a great city. It's got great people. And for a period of time, we have allowed ourselves to be talked into competing with each other. You know, we got the pigs at the trough. You know, those greedy developers who are stealing all the money from everybody in this room so that your neighborhood stinks. That's what was sold to us. That's not a story that leadership ought to tell. Leadership ought to find a way to point out why it's important for us to both develop and to make sure that our neighborhoods are important, because this city needs both. We don't have to pick and choose one against the other. We need to find ways to bring things together to get them done. And splitting us apart, arguing about north of the river and south of the river and eastern truce and western truce, that's a losing proposition. So I think that we have more hope than we've ever had, because we finally realized that it is a losing proposition, and we're determined to do something different. If that wasn't the case, there wouldn't be all these folks sitting here listening to me prattle on.
Okay. Based on what you just said, the next questionnaire has expressed an interest in seeing you become more visible in the black community. How can you assure us that you will continue to work for that community?
Well, I don't know what more visible means. You know, one of the things that we have as a fallacy is that if you're standing in a location and I'm not standing in a location, somehow I'm invisible. The reality is that I'm standing in a different location. That doesn't mean I'm not doing something, because there's a lot of people who say that, but I remember all the times I was at the Genesis school and I never saw them there. But I was working with their children, and I didn't see them. That doesn't make them invisible. That makes them elsewhere. So I reject the initial premise. Secondly, with regards to visibility in the community, I spent a lot of time doing things that help the community that don't require me to stand on the corner and be visible. For example, I fought for over 2 years when mothers were calling me, telling me that their sons had been taken illegally from Missouri to Texas prisons. I fought for 2 years to get those kids back here because it was in the interest of them to do so, and the parents couldn't even visit. That was a long, hard slog. I've used my skills as an attorney to do the things in this community that would help them. A lot of times with no pay, a lot of times with low pay, and a lot of times with pay. So it's really a matter of perspective as to whether one is visible or not. One of the things that I think is absolutely necessary is that we recognize that some people get to one place by one direction and others get there by a different. Neither direction is wrong. Doesn't require that everybody go the same way.
How would you bring jobs and businesses to the 3rd District?
The task of stimulating economic development depends on a number of factors. Number one, there has to be a halo or an area of stability and safety before jobs will automatically set there. I mean, nobody's going to open up a huge department store in the middle of a place where they think they might get shot. We have to work on the safety aspects in the neighborhood. That means we have to bind together in order to find ways to fight crime with the police. And the police have an obligation to diversify take a couple of blocks of truce and do some facade restoration and get some startup businesses in the incubators and try to get them to grow so that we can expand them out and then move to the next 2 blocks. We need a plan. And right now we don't have a plan. We just kind of bounce from mini project to mini project and things just don't happen. But we need a plan.
Okay, we appreciate that response. The next question. In your first 100 days, how will your office start making Kansas City attractive to new businesses in the nation like Detroit?
I don't know exactly how Detroit did it in their first 100 days, so I can't make that comparison. But in the first 100 days that we're in office, the things that we're going to be focused on are making sure that we have a diverse office in the office of the mayor, making sure that we have made quality, high character, diverse appointments to boards and commissions so that we can get that started, because boards and commissions play a tremendous part in how this city works, and it's important for us to do that right, well, and with a great eye towards diversity. And by diversity, I'm also talking about youth. We need to start vertically integrating some of our boards and commissions as well. We need young people to bring their thoughts and ideas, but especially we need young people there so that we can start training the next generation of leadership in the city. And again, in the first 100 days, the things that we're going to try to do is to make sure that the mayor, the council, and the city manager are rock solid on the same page, doing the same plan, so that we can move forward in an organized and consistent way for not just the first 100 days, but for the first 4 years. That, to me, is most important. I'd rather take our time and get it right than move fast and mess it up.
Okay. This comment, this question here directs her comments to you, Sly. You should do a televised spot explaining the earnings tax the way you just did here tonight.
I agree, and there will be someone taking a collection at the door to pay for that spot. But I'll tell you what, the chamber and businesses have raised a lot of money for exactly that purpose. They have been waiting to try to get the city elections on May 22nd over before they roll it out. Here's my fear, and I'm really afraid of this. My fear is that we will spend the little money, relatively speaking, that's been collected by the chamber and businesses, etc. in town, and get on the air and get things rolling. And about the time that that whole thing is in, there's going to be a big money dump from some guy in St. Louis, and all of a sudden we're going to get swamped. And the thing that we can do right now that doesn't cost a commercial is that each one of us in this room who believes, as I do, that the earnings tax is vital to the future of this city, we need to tell one more person tonight or tomorrow, and then another person the day after that, and then another person the day after that, because the communications that are most lasting and most important aren't the ones we see on TV, they're the ones we hear from our friends. So if you have friends and you believe this city is important and the earnings tax is important, share with your friends. Don't wait for the commercials. Don't wait to get swamped with the negativity. Let's get to work right now. Oh yes, and by the way, there's pamphlets over there that give you tremendous talking points about what's going on, and you can get those. And there are people who show up at every forum in order to pass that information along.
Okay, at the outset, Mr. James did indicate that he would have to leave at 6:50. So we'll try to get a couple more questions in the time that we have left. What is your goal for small minority business?
To make them grow as fast as possible so they can hire people. I think, no, I'm serious. The way to increase jobs is through the development, nurturing, and expansion of small business. You know, city government does not create any more jobs unless they decide to hire more people for the blank department or something like that. The jobs that are created are by and large
Okay. Okay, one more.
Sure, he's gonna be mad at me, but he's back there and I'm taking care of it.
Who's the candidate?
That's exactly right, yeah, remember that.
The last question. What are your thoughts on improving the Kansas City Housing Authority? The Kansas City Housing Authority.
Wow. I have a quick answer, but I don't think I'll use it right now. I do notice that one of the council people who have been working on housing issues is here in the circle. I think if she were here, she would tell you that one of the best things that we can do is to get our housing out of receivership as soon as possible and stop paying the receiver ridiculous sums of money over an extended period of time. But when we do that, we have to be able and ready to receive that housing ourselves. The other things that we can do in terms of housing is we need to find ways to incentivize private business to come into the community to do housing. There are a couple of things floating around. I've met a young lady, I think maybe at the last forum I was at here, who told me about how she and her partner are renovating houses at very low cost and they've been able to sell them. I saw some of the properties they were talking about, not bad at all, but they're doing it through a rather innovative process. A small minority startup business consisting of 2 or 3 women, and they're doing some good stuff. The other thing is that I think there's a HUD law program that's starting where an individual realtor can buy an individual house, rehab it using the HUD loan that they receive, and then turn around and sell it without having a down payment needed from the seller, kind of like a VA program. The problem with it is that if you're only able to do one house, I would be reluctant if I were them to go to a house that's got 5 boarded up houses or a block that's got 5 boarded up houses and do one house thinking I would sell it right next to the other 4. I'd rather get all 5, do them all, and then sell them. And that way you change the entire complexion of the neighborhood as opposed to simply one house.
Okay. I think after just listening to this last response, I think we can all give the candidate for mayor, Mr. James of Housing, a round of applause. And we also want to thank the other candidate, Mike Burke, for his participation, for they truly have, I think, opened up their hearts to the questions that have been posed. So, upon saying thank you, Mr. James, we appreciate it.